Judicial Watch, as I discussed recently, has numerous federal lawsuits trying to figure out the extent of taxpayer support, particularly under the Obama administration, for the Soros open society organizations, especially their activities abroad. We've sued the State Department and USAID, which is a funder of supposedly groups that better civil society in other countries. And of course, they're giving money to the Soros operations. We've investigated Albania, Macedonia, Romania, Colombia, and Guatemala. And we filed 4 lawsuits related to State Department funding for Soros's radical agenda. And one of those lawsuits struck pay dirt, which is the lawsuit over its activities in Albania. Albania is controlled by a left-wing communist government. There's really no other way to describe it. So of course the Soros organizations are supportive of this government. And your tax dollars are going to bolster its efforts to consolidate power. Specifically, $9 million in taxpayer money, our documents that we uncovered as a result of the lawsuit show, were sent to Soros by the Obama administration in 2016. Specifically, the USAID funneled money through the agency's Civil Society Project to the foundations, the Soros Foundations groups in Albania. It's called a Justice for All campaign, which was overseen by Soros's East-West Management Institute. So what was going on is the judiciary was a little too independent for the leftists in power, and they wanted to push an effort to, quote, reform the judiciary, meaning bring it back under control of the leftist authoritarians running Albania. So Soros was on the side, unfortunately, of the authoritarians, and our tax dollars were being used to subsidize this effort. And some senators have highlighted this. Senator Mike Lee, particularly from Utah, has taken a leadership role in highlighting the open society taxpayer-funded efforts in Albania and elsewhere. And not only that, but a U.S. ambassador, Donald Liu, a holdover from the Obama administration, has also been supportive of the radical government in Albania. So you've got our money, tax dollars, going into this effort by Soros operations to suppress freedom in Albania. And on top of that, you also had, according to these documents, the State Department letting the Soros open society groups come into the State Department and help vet, or quote, provide technical reviews of other grant applications. So not only were they taking our money and spending it, but also telling and helping the government decide how else to spend our money. Now, I don't need to tell you that George Soros is a billionaire. And I hope I don't need to tell you that it's probably not a good use of taxpayer dollars to provide subsidies to a billionaire, especially one that wants to advance this agenda that's so at odds with freedom and Western values. If you don't like also what Soros is doing here at home, why on earth would you want to support what he's doing abroad? And of course, this is not done with any, quote, congressional approval, more or less. I mean, they kind of acquiesce because they don't, other than a few senators, don't do much to stop it once they find out it's happening. But this is the sort of the deep state funding the Soros operations. And it was happening, obviously, during the Obama administration, as I'm talking about, but we found that this partnership continued into the Trump administration. The deep state really sticking it to Donald Trump. And they were partnering with Soros's operations in Albania, taking our U.S. Embassy, partnering with the Soros operation to take surveys of the population to figure out their support for this judicial takeover they were proposing. And their survey results showed that 91% of the Albanian people supported this takeover. You know, look, any poll that gives you a 91% result, especially a poll that gives you a 91% result in the area you want it to get, is it worth the paper it's written on? And it just shows you that this is propaganda and a push poll, to put it charitably, funded again with your tax dollars in partnership with the Soros operations. And I know this isn't just happening in Albania. I know it's happening in other places like Macedonia, Romania, Hungary, and in Central, and I'm sure in South America. The Soros operation, $9 million may not seem like a lot in terms of government spending, but it's certainly a lot in a country like Albania. And these groups have outsized influence, not only because of the money they have and the big footprint they're able to make as a result of the money that isn't available to others. It's because they have the support of the U.S. State Department and the USAID community there on the ground in Albania. The U.S. ambassador in these smaller countries is an extraordinarily powerful figure, and he can make or break politicians and governments. So when you have a Soros ally in positions of ambassadorships or in key positions in our embassies and consulates abroad, it really has a negative impact on our values. So I want you to, again, go to our website at judicialwatch.org. You can look at the documents yourselves. And you should be asking your members of Congress and senators, what are they going to do to stop the funding for George Soros? And ask the administration, is this still going on? Are you still working with these Soros front groups? It's funny, President Trump was criticizing Bezos, I forget his first name, but the owner of Amazon. And my view is Soros is much more important than Bezos. Because Soros has a much greater impact on our public policy with his funding here at home and his charitable operations abroad. And he has a right, as a citizen, to participate in our nation's public life here at home, but he doesn't have a right to our tax dollars. And this is what's objectionable to it. And you can bet no one would ever really want to approve this outright. This is why it's important for you to pressure your members of Congress, A, to find out about what's going on, and B, stop it. And if they don't know what's happening, tell them to talk to Judicial Watch and we'll tell them what's happening. Because it seems we're doing the job of Congress that they really don't feel like doing. And this is just one lawsuit. We have 3 others currently pending. We just filed 2 recently. And we have many Freedom of Information Act lawsuits that are also looking into this issue as well.